Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about setting the window using the TI-84 Plus graphing calculator. Okay, so get this situated. So obviously you already know that you can graph functions using your graphing calculator, but what you might not know is that you can also set the window for your graph. So basically this means that you can manipulate what portion of the graph that you see. And you mainly only need to do this with large functions and conics and smaller functions that are not close to the origin. So we'll do an example of each of these. So this is what the regular window looks like without adjusting it. And the window represents the maximum and minimum x and y values that your graph will show you for any given function. And this works most of the time for your run-of-the-mill y equals x squared equation, because you can already see the general shape of the graph just using the given window, just the simple one. But sometimes you'll get other equations, such as, let's say, negative 30 x squared minus 200x, we'll say plus 50. And now we'll graph it. So as you can see, with maximum and minimum values of 10 and negative 10 respectively on the y-axis, this graph really won't tell us much. However, if we go over here and we click Window, and we set the y-max to 500, and the y-min to negative 500, and we graph it, we can get a much more accurate depiction of this graph. So now let's move on to a problem where the conic that we're dealing with isn't necessarily very big, but instead it's just at a fairly specific location, not at the origin. So now let's go over here, let's reset our window to negative 10 for y min and 10 for y max. Now let's enter the equation. Let's get rid of this one. Y equals x, where is it, cubed, minus 2x plus 400. And let's graph it again. So as you can see, with the x min and y min of negative 10, and the x max and y max, or x maximum x values and maximum y values of positive 10, we really don't learn very much about this graph. So in this sense, it's similar to the previous problem that we had. And because it's similar to the previous problem, let's set the maximum y value to 500 and a minimum y value to 500. So let's go in here to Window, y min negative 500, y max 500, graph. So this kind of helps. This gives us a general idea of what the graph looks like, but with this graph we can get more specific than that. So now let's go over here into Window, and we'll change y min to, let's just say, negative 5, and y max to 5. But instead of y min of negative 500, we'll change this to 395 and y max to 405. Alright, now let's graph. So now as you can see that we've zoomed in a little bit on this specific part of the graph, we have a much cleaner picture of the graph that we're dealing with. So now that you have a sense of when and how to use the window function, I'll show you how to see your graphs even more accurately. So to start off, let's click Second, and then Window to access table set, and we need to make sure that our independent variable is on ask and our dependent variable is on auto. So this basically means that for every x value that we plug in, the calculator will give us a corresponding y value for whatever equation we've entered into our table. So now let's go let's quit that, and let's go to our last equation that we plugged in. Oh, we already have that. So now let's click Second, then Graph. So now we have our table. So now I'll start plugging in some x values. Let's go negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, and 1. And let's make it a goal so that for every x value that we graph, or that we plug in, and we're given a y value that's 10 or fewer units from the next y value. So, as we can see, after -2, the y values started to get very close to one another. So now let's go back to the top. Let's start from -2. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, as you can see, it started to get a little bit further away after 3. So what we can do is, now that we know that to get the most accurate depiction of our graph, we need to plug in a negative x value of -2, or we need to plug in a minimum x value of -2 and a maximum x value of 2. We can go over here to window again, and we can graph that equation on the interval of -2, 2 in our x values. So let's go -2 here and 2 here. But let's keep the same y min and y max because that was already pretty accurate. And now let's graph it. So there you have it. We've gotten an even more accurate depiction of the more important part of the graph of y equals x cubed minus 2x plus 400. And I mean, you already know that it's more important here because of the change in concavity and the absolute maxes and mins, or relative maxes and min, my bad. Alright, so I hope I've helped you guys with setting the window when using your TI-84 graphing calculator. Thank you.